Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deloitte Case Study project. I am Sanmeet Singh, and will be presenting you the complete interactive dashboard that we have created with the internship under iNeuron. This project has been done by Olkar Arjun Wade and Sanmeet Singh, and you can also reach out to us on our LinkedIn profiles for any queries regarding this project, whether it be any GitHub repository or the data set regarding this project also. So without wasting time, let's just quickly jump to our problem statement, our objective, and the tools which we have used in creating the project. So let's just talk about first the problem statement. So in this data analytics project, we aim to analyze a structured time series data related to the key economic factors, including the CPI, the consumer price index, and exchange rate, and exports, also the inflation rate, how over the inflation rate changes on the year-on-year basis for a particular country. The data represents various financial aspects such as credit unions, the banks, insurance companies, and investment funds, etc. Now, what is our main objective? So the main objective in creating this interactive dashboard for the Deloitte case study project is basically the data which has been provided to us was on the unstructured data. So we have to do a lot of the data cleaning and the data transformation. We need to transform the data in order to extract some valuable insights from it. The trends of the countries, export rates, the exchange rates for specific country, what is the relationship among the CPI, exchange rate, and exports, the deduplication and error handling of the dataset, the individual demonstrate their ability to clean the data effectively. Also, build an interactive dashboard to ensure that the graphical representations of the data in the dashboard is dynamic in nature. Okay, so the tools which we have used in creating this project are Power BI, Excel, and Python. So all the data cleaning has been done using Python, the majority of the data cleaning, and we have also done some of the data cleaning using Excel as well. And using Power BI, we have created all the DAX measures and graphically representing the insights which we are able to draw in this project. So now let's just talk about CPI first. What is CPI and how it is correlated to exchange rate and exports as well. So CPI is basically tells us about the overall changes in prices paid by per customer of the country, right? And it is one of the most popular measures in order to measure the inflation rate or deflation. It tells us about that also. So when the CPI of a country rises, for example, if the CPI of a country, the consumer price index of a country for the year 2010 is something 2000, and in the very next year, the 2011, for the same country, the CPI increases. So so the effect of this increase in CPI, it also increases the inflation rate, which further reduces the exports of a country as it makes the domestic goods expensive, right? So let's just try to compare the CPI rate of the two different countries. I'll be taking the example of China and US, which are the two economical dominant countries available. So let me just take an example of, I'll measure the 5-year. Let's Sean. So as we can see, the trend of the inflation rate for both of the countries. We can also have a look at this trend line to compare the overall inflation rate, growth, the changes in the CPI, the changes in the inflation rate on the year-on-year basis for the two countries. We can also see the which country had the increased CPI rate for a particular year. So in this example, in the year 2000, and both countries like United States and China, we are in this particular graph, we are comparing the current CPI, that is to the CPI which is in 2000 year, the CPI last year, which is basically the CPI rate of 1999. And the orange bar displays us the CPI 2 years back, which means the CPI rate in 1998. So as we can see, from year 1998 to year 2000, the United States CPI has been increased. It is increasing, right? And if we try to compare the same 3 years data of the China country, we can see in the year 1998, the CPI was nearly 995. Then in 1999, it decreased by 10 points. And then again, in the next year, that is the selected year 2000, it increased only by 3 points. So we can see that in order to, see which country has performed better. So comparing the years 1998 to 2000, we can see that the China has performed a little better than United States, right? We can also have a look at the top 8 countries with the highest CPI rates overall, and also have a look at the bottom countries with the lowest CPI rates, including the CPI data of all the years. We can also see which country in the year 2005 has the highest CPI rate. The top 8 countries with the highest CPI rates in the year 2005. So we can also draw an insight on that. We can see that Syria is at number 1, Lebanon is at the 2nd place, Japan is at the 4th place, Switzerland is after that. So these are the insights which we can draw. Now, let's move on to our next page, which the next report tells us about the exchange rate of a country. So basically, exchange rate and the inflation are correlated, and the increase in the inflation rate also increases the exchange rate of a country, which basically means that the currency of a country depreciates, right? So if the inflation increases, for example, if the CPI increases, automatically the inflation will increase. And if the inflation is increasing, the exchange rate of a country also increases, which weakens the currency of a country. So here also we can compare the exchange rate of a country in 3 different years using 3 different bars. Let's just take an example of 2 countries. I'll take different countries this time, Bangladesh and China, right? Try to compare them using 5-year data, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003 and 2004. Let's also do 2005, right? So, as we can see, the trend of the 2 countries, Bangladesh and China, we can see that the exchange rate of the country China is more stable than the exchange rate of the country Bangladesh is. So which means that the China has able to control their inflation rate more efficiently as compared to the country Bangladesh with respect to these 6 years only. Right? Now, let's have a look at our export merchandise per country. So, let's also first see the top countries, top 10, 17 or 20 countries maybe, right? So we can see the bar chart which shows us who are the top 20 countries with the most exports in like overall years as we compare like the years from 1989 to 2018, right? So let's see which are the top 20 countries in 2010. Still, there is no change, which means that all these countries, nations has performed stable, like very well they have performed, right? Now, also let's have a look at the bottom 20 countries which didn't perform well. Czech Republic is one of them. Canada is one of them. Slovakia and Denmark also we can see, right? Now, let's just clear this out and quickly see the two nations, the dominating three nations. Also, China, United States, and United Kingdom. So, we can see that the overall exports which China has done are equal to 44 million, which is almost the 85% of what US has done. Now, let's try to compare in the year 2008. Right, we can see there is barely a difference of 0.12 million between United States and China in the year 2008, and UK is lacking way behind in comparison of these two countries, right? In the same way, let's move on to our next page, which tells us CAGR, compound annual growth rate of a country. Now, we can have a look at this. First, let's just have a look at CPI. We'll measure the CPI of, let's take another example, will be India, right? So the CPI rate of India with starting year as 1991 shows us that the country's CPI CAGR is about 2%. Right? So India has shown a growth in the CPI. Now let's try to compare the CAGR for India and Bangladesh. Let's take China. And we take United Kingdom as well. That's right. So, excitingly, we see that the CAGR of the China and the United Kingdom falls in the negative side of the percentage. That is near to 1%, minus 1% for China, and 0.5 minus 0.5% for United Kingdom. We can take another example for Turkey. Now this shows that the Turkey, in comparison of where it started in the year 1991 and where it ended in the year 2018, the country's export increased tremendously at the end of year 2018. Therefore, the country's CAGR has a positive percentage, which is near to 38%. Now let's same way compare the exchange rates, CAGR. Let's try different countries, Let's take Australia, Bangladesh, Brazil, China, all that. Right? We can also change the starting year as per our requirement. So, this was the data. Now let's just quickly see the dashboard which we have created. It shows the top 10 countries' exchange rate, the CPI rate of Venezuela, which country is above average and which country falls below average. You can all have a look at that. For a specific month, for a specific country. Right, so all this we can have a look at. I'm right to the next page, which is the insights. So Brazil has the highest year-on-year CPI rate. The high income non-OECD has highest year-on-year export merchandise, right? And in Angola has highest year-on-year exchange rate. Now, the Russian Federation has highest CAGR CPI rate. Turkey has the highest CAGR export merchandise. And Venezuela, RP has the highest CAGR exchange rate. Now, world member has the highest overall yearly export rate and also the CPI rate as well. And Angola has highest over yearly exchange rate. Now, what are the average values? So the average value of CPI rate is about 89%, 89.29. And the average value of export merchandise lies between 72 to 73K. And average value of exchange rate is 670.05%. Now, what are the measures which basically a country can take in order to control their inflation or deflation? So in order to control the inflation in the countries like Brazil, where we have seen that there is the highest year-on-year CPI rate, and Armenia also. So inflation was at its peak in year 1993 and 1994. Government took initiatives to control the rising inflation rates, like government pursued a contractionary monetary policy where government basically reduces the money supply within the economy by increasing the interest rates on the loans, which further makes the credit more expensive. Right? So the consumers are not able to take loans as the interest rates of the loans are greater than what were that as compared to the previous year. So last insight. So the fluctuation in how the fluctuation in exchange rate affects the exports or the inflation or the CPI of the country. So fluctuation in exchange rate tremendously affect the inflation rate, especially for those countries where the large fraction of countries' trade is dominated in the foreign currencies, right? And the currency's exchange rate affect the exports of the country also. As the exchange rate increases, the exports of a country or decreases on the other hand. So on the above point, we can say that exchange rate in Australia in 1997 was 7% and increased to 17% in year 1998, which further resulted in decline in the total number of exports, as the year-on-year percentage of export growth was 7.16% in 1997, and in 1998, the next year, as the exchange rate increases, the year-on-year export rate decreased. So they have inverse relation to each other. A higher exchange rate increases the inflation rate. So the Bangladesh's inflation was at its peak in 2010 with 10%. Then after it started declining as the exchange rate for Bangladesh started decreasing, which made the currency stronger. Okay. Inflation, United States of America and China has performed the best in terms of maintaining their inflation rate, as they have maintained the inflation rate between 2 to 4% for more than a decade that we have seen in the very first report. So the Turkey has the highest CAGR report exports, which means that the Turkey has increased its exports compared to where they started in 1989 with 2.49 exports rate and ended with 267K in the year 2018 with a CAGR of 37%. That's the highest in among all the 200 countries which we have seen. So that's it.